The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Udyoga Parva. Section 61, Sanat Sujata Parva. Vaisampayana said, hearing these words of his father, the passionate son of Dhritarashtra, inflamed with great wrath again said these words, Thou thinkest the Parthas, having the celestials for their allies, are incapable of being vanquished. Let this thy fear, O best of kings, be dispelled. The gods attained to their divinity for absence of desire, of envy, of covetousness and of enmity, as also for their indifference to all worldly affairs. Formerly, Dwaipayana Vyasa and Narada of great ascetic austerities and Rama, the son of Jamdagni, told us this, the gods, never like human beings engage in work, O bull of the Bharata race, from desire, or wrath, or covetousness, or envy. Indeed, if Agni, or Vayu, or Dharma, or Indra, or the Aswins had ever engaged themselves in works from worldly desire, then the sons of Pritha could never have fallen into distress. Do not therefore, by any means indulge in such anxiety, because the gods, O Bharata, always set their eyes on affairs worthy of themselves. If however envy or lust become noticeable in the gods in consequence of their yielding to desire, then according to what has been ordained by the gods themselves, such envy or lust can never prevail. Charmed by me, Agni will be instantly extinguished even if he blazes up all around for consuming all creatures. The energy with which the gods are endued is indeed great, but know, O Bharata, that mine is greater than that of the gods. If the earth herself cleaves in twain, or mountain crests split, I can reunite them, O king, by my incantations before the eyes of all. If for the destruction of this universe of animate and inanimate, mobile and immobile creatures, there happeneth a terrific tempest or stony shower of loud roar, I can always, from compassion for created beings, stop it before the eyes of all. When the waters are solidified by me, even cars and infantry can move over them. It is I who set a-going all the affairs of both gods and asuras. Unto whatever countries I go with my Akshahinis on any mission, my steeds move whithersoever I desire. Within my dominions there are no fearful snakes, and protected by my incantations, creatures within my territories are never injured by others that are frightful. The very clouds, O king, pour, as regards those dwelling in my dominions, showers as much as they desire and when they desire. All my subjects again, are devoted to religion and are never subject to calamities of season. The Aswins, Vayu, Agni, Indra with the Maruts and Dharma will not venture to protect my force. If these had been able to protect by their might my adversaries, never would the sons of Pritha have fallen into such distress for 3 and 10 years. I tell thee truly that neither gods, nor Gandharvas nor Asuras nor Rakshasas are capable of saving him who hath incurred my displeasure. I have never before been baffled as regards the reward to punishment that I intended to bestow or inflict on friend or foe. If ever, O repressor of foes, I said this is to be, that hath always been. People, therefore, have always known me as a speaker of truth. All persons can bear witness to my greatness, the fame of which hath spread all around. I mention this, O king, for thy information and not from pride. Never had I, king, praised myself before, for to praise one's own self is mean. Thou wilt hear of defeat of the Pandavas and the Matsyas, the Panchalas and the Kekayas, of Satyaki and Vasudeva, at my hands. Indeed, as rivers on entering the ocean are entirely lost in it, so the Pandavas with all their followers, on approaching me will all be annihilated. My intelligence is superior, my energy is superior, my prowess is superior, my knowledge is superior, my resources are superior by far to those of the Pandavas. Whatever knowledge of weapons is in the grandsire, in Drona, and Kripa, and Salya, and Shalya, exist in me as well. Having said these words, O Bharata, Duryodhana, that repressor of force, again asked Sanjaya in order to ascertain the proceedings of Yudhishthira bent upon war. Thus ends the 61st section in the Sanat-Sujata Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 62, Sanat-Sujata Parva. Vaisampayana said, without much minding Dhritarashtra, the son of Vichitravirya, who was about to ask of Partha, Karna said unto Dhritarashtra's son these words, cheering up the spirit of the assembled Kurus. Coming to know of the false pretense under which I obtained the Brahma weapon of old from Rama, the latter told me, when thy hour will come, thy memory will fail thee in respect of this weapon. Even for so great an offense I was cursed so lightly by that great Rishi, my preceptor. That great Rishi of fierce energy is capable of consuming even the entire earth with her seas. By attention and personal bravery, I appeased his heart. I have that weapon with me still. And my period is not yet run, I am therefore fully competent to win victory. Let the responsibility be mine. Having obtained the favor of that Rishi, I will slay, within the twinkling of an eye, the Panchalas, the Karushas, the Matsyas and the sons of Pritha with their sons and grandsons, and bestow on thee numerous regions won by my weapons. Let the grandsire and Drona and all the kings stay with thee. I will slay the sons of Pritha, marching forth with the chief warriors of my army. Let that task be mine. Unto him speaking thus Bhishma said, What sayest thou, O Karna? Thy intellect is clouded at the approach of thy hour. Knowest thou not, O Karna, that when the chief is slain, the sons of Dhritarashtra will all be slain? Having heard of the feat achieved by Dhananjaya with Krishna only as his ally, at the burning of the Khandava forest, it behoveth thee with thy friends and relatives to restrain thy mind. The shaft that the illustrious and adorable chief of the celestials, the great Indra gave thee thou wilt see, will be broken and reduced to ashes when struck by Kesava with his discus. That other shaft of serpentine mouth that shineth in thy quiver and is respectfully worshipped by thee with flowery garlands, will, O Karna, when struck by the son of Pandu with his shafts, perish with thee. O Karna, the slayer of Vana and Bhumi's son Naraka, Vasudeva himself, who hath in the thickest of battles slain foes equal and even superior to thee, protecteth the diadem-decked Arjuna. Karna said, without doubt, the chief of the Vrishnis is even so. Further, I admit, that high-souled one is even more than that. Let however the grandsire listen to the effect of the bit of harsh speech that he hath uttered. I lay down my weapons. The grandsire will henceforth behold me in court only and not in battle. After thou hast become quiet, the rulers of the earth will behold my prowess in this world. Vaisampayana continued. Having said this, that great bowman, Karna, leaving the court went to his own abode. Bhishma, however, O king, addressing Duryodhana in the midst of the Kurus, and laughing aloud said, How truly doth the Suta's son keep his promise! Why? Having repeatedly given his pledge, saying, The kings of Avanti and Kalinga, Jayadratha, and Chedidaja and Valika standing as spectators, I will slay hostile warriors by thousands and tens of thousands, how will he discharge that obligation? Having distributed his divisions in counter-array and scattering heads by thousands, behold the havoc committed by Bhimasena. Indeed, that moment when representing himself as Sabrahmana unto the holy and blameless Rama, Vikatna's son obtained that weapon, that vile wretch lost both his virtue and asceticism. O King of Kings, when Bhishma said this after Karna had gone away giving up his weapons, Duryodhana, that foolish son of Vichitravirya's son, addressed Santanu's son in these words. Thus ends the 62nd section in the Sanat-Sujata Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 63, Sujata Parva. Duryodhana said, "The sons of Pritha are all as other men, and are in fact of earthly birth as other men. Why then dost thou think that they are sure to win victory? Both ourselves and they are equal in energy, in prowess, in age, in intelligence, in knowledge of the scriptures, in weapons, in the art of war, in lightness of hand, and in skill. All of us are of the same species, all being men by birth. How then, O grandsire, dost thou know that victory will be theirs? I do not seek the accomplishment of my aims by relying upon thee, or Drona, or Kripa or Valika, or upon the other kings. Myself and Karna, the son of Vikartna, and my brother Dusasana will slay in battle the 5 sons of Pandu by sharpened arrows. Then shall we, O king, gratify Brahmanas by performing great sacrifices of diverse kinds with abundant dakshinas, and by gifts of kin and horses and wealth. When my troops will drag, by the aid of their mighty arms, the Pandavas in battle like hunters dragging a herd of deer by a net, or whirlpools drawing a crewless boat, then the sons of Pandu, beholding us their foe, supported by crowds and cars and elephants, will give up their pride, and not they alone, but Kesava also." Hearing this, Vidura said, "Venerable persons of infallible knowledge say that, in this world, self-restraint is highly beneficial. In the case of Brahmana especially, it is his duty. He whose self-restraint followeth charity, asceticism, knowledge, and study of the Veds, always winneth success, forgiveness, and the fruit of his gifts. Self-restraint enhanceth energy and is an excellent and holy attribute. Freed from sin and his energy increased by self-restraint, one acquireth even Brahma through it. People are always afraid of those that are without self-restraint, as if the latter were very Rakshasas. And it is for keeping these under check that the self-existent created the Kshatriyas. It hath been said that self-restraint is an excellent vow for all the 4 modes of life. I regard those attributes as its indications, which owe their origin to self-restraint. Those indications are forgiveness, firmness of mind, abstention from injury, an equal regard for all things, truthfulness of speech, simplicity, control over the senses, patience, gentleness of speech, modesty, steadiness, liberality, mildness, contentment and faith. He that hath self-restraint casteth off lust, avarice, pride, wrath, sleep, boastfulness, self-esteem, malice, and sorrow. Purity and absence of crookedness and fraud are the distinctive marks of a man of self-restraint. He that is not covetous, that is satisfied with a little, that regardeth not objects provoking lust, and that is as grave as the ocean, is known as a man of self-restraint. He that is well behaved, of good disposition and contented soul, that knoweth his own self and is possessed of wisdom, winneth great regard here and attaineth to a blissful state hereafter. Possessed of mature wisdom, he that hath no fear of other creatures and whom other creatures fear not, is said to be the foremost of men. Seeking the good of all, he is a universal friend and no one is made unhappy by him. Endued with gravity, like that of the ocean, and enjoying contentment in consequence of his wisdom, such a man is always calm and cheerful. Regulating their conduct according to the acts practiced by the righteous of olden times and before their eyes, they that are self-restrained, being devoted to peace, rejoice in this world. Or abandoning action, because contented in consequence of knowledge, such a person with his senses under control moveth quickly in this world, waiting for the inevitable hour and absorption into Brahma. And as the track of feathery creatures in the sky is incapable of being perceived, so the path of the sage enjoying contentment in consequence of knowledge is not visible. Abandoning the world, he that betaketh himself in pursuit of emancipation to the sannyasa mode of life, hath bright and eternal regions assigned to him in heaven. Thus ends the 63rd section in the Sujata Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 64, Sanat Parva. Vidura said, "We have heard, O sire, from old men, that once on a time a fowler spread his net on the ground for catching feathery denizens of the air. And in that net were ensnared at the same time two birds that lived together. And taking the net up, the two winged creatures soared together into the air. And seeing them soar into the sky, the fowler, without giving way to despair, began to follow them in the direction they flew. Just then an ascetic living in a hermitage close by, who had finished his morning prayers, saw the fowler running in that manner, hoping still to secure the feathery creatures. And seeing that tenant of the earth quickly pursuing those tenants of the air, the ascetic, O Kaurava, addressed him in this sloka: O fowler, it appears very strange and wonderful to me that thou that art a treader of the earth pursuest yet a couple of creatures that are tenants of the air. The fowler said, These two, united together, are taking away my snare. There, however, where they will quarrel, they will come under my control. Vidura continued, the two birds, doomed to death, soon after quarreled. And when the foolish pair quarreled, they both fell on the earth. And when, ensnared in the meshes of death, they began to contend angrily against each other, the fowler approached unperceived and seized them both. Even thus those kinsmen who fall out with one another for the sake of wealth fall into the hands of the enemy like the birds I have cited, in consequence of their quarrel. Eating together, talking together, these are the duties of kinsmen, and not contention under any circumstances. Those kinsmen, that with loving hearts wait on the old, become unconquerable like a forest guarded by lions. While those, O bull of the Bharata race, that, having won enormous riches, nevertheless behave like mean-minded men, always contribute to the prosperity of their foes. Kinsmen, O Dhritarashtra, O bull of the Bharata race, are like charred brands which blaze up when united, but only smoke when disunited. I will now tell thee something else that I saw on a mountain breast. Having listened to that also, do, O Kaurava, what is for thy best. Once on a time we repaired to the northern mountain, accompanied by some hunters and a number of Brahmanas, fond of discoursing on charms and medicinal plants. That northern mountain, Gandhamadana, looked like a grove. As its breast was overgrown on all sides with trees and plants and divers kinds of luminous medicinal herbs, it was inhabited by Siddhas and Gandharvas. And there we all saw a quantity of honey of a bright yellow color and of the measure of a jar, placed on an inaccessible precipice of the mountain. That honey, which was Kuvara's favorite drink, was guarded by snakes of virulent poison. And it was such that a mortal, drinking of it, would win immortality, a sightless man obtain sight, and an old man would become a youth. It was that those Brahmanas conversant with sorcery spoke about that honey. And the hunters, seeing that honey, desired, O king, to obtain it. And they all perished in that inaccessible mountain cave abounding with snakes. In the same way, this thy son desireth to enjoy the whole earth without a rival. He beholdeth the honey but seeth not, from folly, the terrible fall. It is true, Duryodhana desireth an encounter in battle with Savyaschin, but I do not see that energy or prowess in him which may carry him safe through it. On a single car Arjuna conquered the whole earth. At the head of their hosts, Bhishma and Drona and others were frightened by Arjuna and utterly routed at the city of Virata. Remember what took place on that occasion. He forgiveth still, looking up to thy face and waiting to know what thou wouldst do. Drupada and the king of Matsyas and Dhananjaya, when angry, will like flames of fire urged by the wind, leave no remnant of thy army. O Dhritarashtra, take King Yudhishthira on thy lap, since both parties can under no circumstances have victory when they will be engaged in battle. Thus ends the 64th section in the Sanat Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 65, Sanat Parva. Dhritarashtra said, "Consider, O Duryodhana, O dear son, what I tell thee. Like an ignorant traveller thou thinkest the wrong path to be the right one, since thou art desirous of robbing the energy of the 5 sons of Pandu, who are even as the 5 elements of the universe in their subtle form, upholding all mobile and immobile things. Without the certain sacrifice of thy life, thou art unable to vanquish Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, who is the foremost of all virtuous persons in this world. Alas, like a tree defying the mighty tempest, thou chafest at Bhimasena, who hath not his peer among men in might and who is equal unto Yama himself in battle. What man of sense would encounter in battle the wielder of Gandiva, who is the foremost of all wielders of weapons, as the Meru among mountains? What man is there whom Dhrishtadyumna, the prince of Panchala, cannot overthrow, shooting his arrows among the foes like the chief of the celestials hurling his thunderbolt? That honored warrior among the Andakas and the Vrishnis, the irresistible Satyaki, ever engaged in the good of the Pandavas, will also slaughter thy host. What man of sense, again, would encounter the lotus-eyed Krishna who, as regards the measure of his energy and power, surpasseth the 3 worlds? As regards Krishna, his wives, kinsmen, relatives, his own soul and the whole earth put on one scale, weigh it with Dhananjaya on the other. That Vasudeva, upon whom Arjuna relieth, is irresistible, and that host where Kesava is, becometh irresistible everywhere. Listen therefore, O child, to the counsels of those well-wishers of thine whose words are always for thy good. Accept thou thy aged grandsire Bhishma, the son of Santanu, as thy guide. Listen thou to what I say and what these well-wishers of the Kurus, Drona, and Kripa, and Vikarna, and King Valika say. These all are as I myself. It behoveth thee to regard them as much as thou regardest me, since, O Bharata, all these are conversant with morality and bear affection to thee as much as I myself do. The panic and rout before thy eyes at the city of Virata of all thy troops with thy brothers after surrender of the king, indeed that wonderful story that is heard of an encounter at that city between one and many, are sufficient proof of the wisdom of what I say. When Arjuna singly achieves all that, what will not the Pandavas achieve when united together? Take them by the hand as thy brothers and cherish them with a share of the kingdom. Thus ends the 65th section in the Sanatsujata Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 66, Sanatsujata Parva. Vaisampayana said, having addressed Suyodhana thus, the highly blessed and wise Dhritarashtra again asked Sanjaya, saying, Tell me, O Sanjaya, what thou hast not yet said, viz., what Arjuna told thee after the conclusion of Vasudeva's speech, for great is my curiosity to hear it. Sanjaya said, having heard the words spoken by Vasudeva, the irresistible Dhananjaya, the son of Kunti, when the opportunity came, said these words in the hearing of Vasudeva. O Sanjaya, our grandsire, the son of Santanu, and Dhritarashtra and Drona, and Kripa and Karna, and King Vahlika, and Drona's son and Somadatta and Sakuni the son of Suvala and Dusasana, and Sala and Purumitra, and Vivinseti, Vikarna and Chitrasena, and King Jayatsana and Vinda and Anuvinda, the 2 chiefs of Avanti, and Burisravas and King Bhagadatta, and King Jasanda and other rulers of the earth, assembled there to fight for the good of the Kauravas, are all on the eve of death. They have been assembled by Dhritarashtra's son for being offered up as libations on the blazing Pandava fire. In my name, Sanjaya, inquire after the welfare of those assembled kings according to their respective ranks, paying them proper regard at the same time. Thou shouldst also, O Sanjaya, say this in the presence of all kings unto Suyodhana, that foremost of all sinful men. Wrathful and wicked, of sinful soul and exceedingly covetous, do thou, O Sanjaya, see that that fool with his counsellors hears all that I say. And with this preface, Pritha's son Dhananjaya, endued with great wisdom and possessed of large eyes with red corners, glancing at Vasudeva then spoke unto me these words pregnant with both virtue and profit. Thou hast already heard the measured words spoken by the high-souled chief of the Madhu race. Say unto the assembled kings that those are also my words. And say this also for me unto those kings, do ye together try to act in such a way that libations may not have to be poured into the arrowy fire of the great sacrifice of battle, in which the rattle of car wheels will sound as mantras and the rank-routing bow will act as the ladle. If indeed ye do not give up unto Yudhishthira, that slayer of foes, his own share in the kingdom asked back by him, I shall then by means of my arrows, send all of you with cavalry, infantry, and elephants, into the inauspicious regions of departed spirits. Then bidding adieu unto the Nanjaya and Hari of 4 arms and bowing unto them both, I have with great speed come hither to convey those words of grave import to thee, O thou that art endued with effulgence equal that of the very gods. Thus ends the 66th section in the Sanat Sujata Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 67, Sanat Sujata Parva. Vaisampayana said, when Duryodhana, the son of Dhritarashtra showed little regard for the words spoken by Sanjaya and when the rest remained silent, the assembled kings rose up and retired. And after all the kings of the earth had retired, King Dhritarashtra, who always followed the counsels of his son from affection, wishing success to the assembled kings began to inquire in secret of Sanjaya about the resolves of his own party and of the Pandavas, who were hostile to him. And Dhritarashtra said, Tell me truly, O son of Gavalgani, in what consists the strength and weakness of our own host? Minutely acquainted as thou art with the affairs of the Pandavas, tell me in what lies their superiority and in what their inferiority. Thou art fully conversant with the strength of both parties. Thou knowest all things and art well versed in all matters of virtue and profit. Asked by me, O Sanjaya, say which of the parties, when engaged in battle, will perish. Sanjaya said, I will not say anything to thee in secret, O king, for then thou mayst entertain ill feelings towards me. Bring thou hither Ajamida, thy father Vyasa of high voice and thy queen Gandhari. Conversant with morality, of keen perception, and capable of arriving at the truth, they will remove any ill feelings thou mayst cherish against me. In their presence, O king, I will tell thee everything about the intentions of Kesava and Partha. Vaisampayana continued, thus addressed, Dhritarashtra caused both Gandhari and Vyasa to be brought there. And introduced by Vidura they entered the court without delay. And understanding the intentions of both Sanjaya and his son, Krishna-Dwaipayana endued with great wisdom said, Say, O Sanjaya, unto the enquiring Dhritarashtra everything that he desireth to know. Tell him truly all that thou knowest about Vasudeva and Arjuna. Thus ends the 67th section in the Sanat Sujata Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 68, Sanat Sujata Parva. Sanjaya said, those adorable bowmen, Arjuna and Vasudeva, who are perfectly equal unto each other in respect of their godlike nature, have taken their births of their own will. O Lord, the discus owned by Vasudeva, of abundant energy, occupieth a space full 5 cubits in diameter, is capable also of being hurled at the foe in forms large or small, according to the will of the wielder himself, and it dependeth on illusion. Always conspicuous by its effulgence, it is invisible to the Kurus. And in ascertaining the strength or weakness of the Pandavas, that discus offers the best ground. Indeed, that scion of Madhu's race, endued with great might, vanquished with an effort and, in seeming playfulness, the formidable Naraka and Samvara and Kansa and Sisupala, the chief of Chedis. Possessed of divinity and of soul superior to everything, that most exalted of male beings can by his will alone bring the earth, firmament, and heaven under his control. Thou askest me repeatedly, O king, about the Pandavas for knowing their strength and weakness. Listen now to all that in brief. If the whole universe be placed on one scale and Janardana on the other, even then Janardana will outweigh the entire universe. Janardana, at his pleasure, can reduce the universe to ashes, but the entire universe is incapable of reducing Janardana to ashes. Wherever there is truthfulness, wherever virtue, wherever modesty, wherever simplicity, even there is Govinda. And thither where Krishna is, success must be. That soul of all creatures, most exalted of male beings, Janardana, guided as if in sport, the entire earth, the firmament, and the heaven. Making the Pandavas the indirect means and beguiling the whole world, Janardana wisheth to blast thy wicked sons that are all addicted to sin. Endued with divine attributes, Kesava, by the power of his soul, causeth the wheel of time, the wheel of the universe, and the wheel of the Yuga, to revolve incessantly. And I tell thee truly, that glorious being is alone the Lord of time, of death, and of this universe of mobile and immobile objects. That great ascetic Hari, though the Lord of the whole universe, still betaketh himself to work like a humble labourer that tilleth the fields. Indeed, Kesava beguileth all by the aid of his illusion. Those men, however, that have attained to him are not deceived. Thus ends the 68th section in the Sanapsujata Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 69, Sanapsujata Parva. Dhritarashtra said, How hast thou, O Sanjaya, been able to know Madhava as the Supreme Lord of the universe? And how is it that I am unable to know him as such? Tell me this, O Sanjaya. Sanjaya said, Listen, O king, thou hast no knowledge, whereas my knowledge hath suffered no diminution. He that is without knowledge and is shrouded with the darkness of ignorance, knoweth not Kesava. Aided by my knowledge, O sire, I know the slayer of Madhu to be the union of the gross, the subtle and the coarse. And that he is the creator of all, but is himself increate. And also that, endued with divinity, it is he from whom everything springs and it is he unto whom all things return. Dhritarashtra said, O son of Gavalgani, what is the nature of that faith which thou hast in Janardana, and in consequence of which thou knowest the slayer of Madhu to be the union of the gross, the subtle, and the coarse? Sanjaya said, Blessed be thou, O king, I have no regard for the illusion that is identified with worldly pleasures, and I never practice the useless virtues of verse and work, without reliance on him and purity of soul. Having obtained purity of soul through faith, I have known Janardana from the scriptures. Dhritarashtra said, O Duryodhana, seek thou the protection of Janardana, otherwise called Hrishiksa. O child, Sanjaya is one of our trustiest friends. Seek refuge with Kesava. Duryodhana said, If the divine son of Devaki, united in friendship with Arjuna, were to slay all mankind, I cannot, even then, resign myself to Kesava. Dhritarashtra said, This evil-minded son of thine, O Gandhari, is resolved to sink in misery. Envious, wicked-souled, and vain, he setteth aside the words of all his superiors. Gandhari said, Thou covetous wretch that disregardest the commands of the aged, abandoning thy father and myself and giving up prosperity and life, enhancing the joy of thy foes, and afflicting me with deep distress, thou wilt, O fool, remember thy father's words, when struck by Bhimasena, thou wilt bite the dust. Vyasa said, Listen to me, O king. Thou, O Dhritarashtra, art the beloved of Krishna. When Sanjaya hath been thy envoy, he will verily lead thee to thy good. He knoweth Hrishiksa, that ancient and exalted one. If thou listenest to him with attention, he will certainly save thee from the great danger that hangs upon thee. O son of Vichitravirya, subject to wrath and joy, men are entangled in various snares. They that are not contented with their own possessions, deprived of sense as they are by avarice and desire, they repeatedly become subject to death in consequence of their own acts, like blind men falling into pits when led by the blind. The path that is trod by the wise is the only one that leadeth to Brahma. They that are superior, keeping that path in view, overcome death and reach the goal by it. Dhritarashtra said, "Tell me, O Sanjaya, of that path without terrors by which, obtaining Hrishiksa, salvation may be mine." Sanjaya said, "A man of uncontrolled mind can by no means know Janardana, whose soul is under perfect command. The performance of sacrifices without controlling one's senses is even no means to that end. Renunciation of the objects of our excited senses is due to spiritual light. Both spiritual light and abstention from injury arise doubtless from true wisdom. Therefore, O king, resolve to subdue thy senses with all possible vigor, let not thy intellect deviate from true knowledge, and restrain thy heart from worldly temptations that surround it." Learned Brahmanas describe this subjugation of the senses to be true wisdom, and this wisdom is the path by which learned men proceed to their goal. O king, Kesava is not obtainable by men who have not subdued their senses. He that hath subdued his senses, desireth spiritual knowledge, awakened by the knowledge of scriptures and the pleasure of yoga absorption. Thus ends the 69th section in the Sanatsujata Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 70, Sanatsujata Parva. Dhritarashtra said, "I request thee, O Sanjaya, to tell me again of the lotus-eyed Krishna, for by being acquainted with the import of his names, I may, O son, obtain that most exalted of male beings." Sanjaya said, "The auspicious names of Kesava have been previously heard by me. Of those I will tell thee as many as I know. Kesava, however, is immeasurable, being above the power of speech to describe. He is called Vasudeva in consequence of his enveloping all creatures with the screen of illusion, or of his glorious splendor, or of his being the support and resting place of the gods. He is called Vishnu because of his all-pervading nature. He is called Madhava, O Bharata, because of his practicing as a Muni, concentration of mind on truth and yoga absorption. He is called Madhusudana because of his having slain the Asura Madhu, and also because of his being the substance of the 24 objects of knowledge. Born of the Satvata race, he is called Krishna because he uniteth in himself what are implied by the two words Krishi, which signifieth what existeth, and Na, which signifieth eternal peace. He is called Pundarikaksha from Pundarika, implying his high and eternal abode, and Aksha implying indestructible, and he is called Janardana because he striketh fear into the hearts of all wicked beings. He is called Satvata, because the attribute of Sattva is never dissociated from him, and also because he is never dissociated from it, and he is called Vrishabhakshana from Vrishabha implying the Veds, and Ikshana implying eye, the union of the two signifying that the Veds are his eye, or the Veds are the eyes through which he may be seen. That conqueror of hosts is called Aja, or unborn, because he hath not taken his birth from any being in the ordinary way. That supreme soul is called Damodara because, unlike the gods, his effulgence is increate and his own, and also because he hath self-control and great splendor. He is called Hrishiksa, from Hrishika meaning eternal happiness, and Ha meaning the 6 divine attributes, the union signifying one having joy, happiness, and divinity. He is called Mahavahu, because he upholdeth the earth and the sky with his 2 arms. He is called Adakshaja, because he never falleth down or suffereth any deterioration, and is called Narayana from his being the refuge of all human beings. He is called Purasottama from Puru implying he that createth and preserveth, and so meaning he that destroyeth, the union signifying one that createth, preserveth, and destroyeth the universe. He possesseth a knowledge of all things and therefore is called Sarva. Krishna is always in truth and truth is always in him, and Govinda is truth's truth. Therefore he is called Satya. He is called Vishnu because of his prowess and Jishnu because of his success. He is called Ananta from his eternity, and Govinda from his knowledge of speech of every kind. He maketh the unreal appear as real and thereby beguileth all creatures. Possessed of such attributes, ever devoted to righteousness, and endued with divinity, the slayer of Madhu, that mighty armed one incapable of decay, will come hither for preventing the slaughter of the Kurus. Thus ends the 70th section in the Sanapsujata Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 71, Sanapsujata Parva. Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, I envy those gifted with sight, who will behold before them that Vasudeva whose body, endued with great beauty, shineth with effulgence illuminating the cardinal and subsidiary points of the compass, who will give utterance to words that will be listened to with respect by the Bharatas, words that are auspicious to the Srinjayas, acceptable by those desirous of prosperity, faultless in every respect, and unacceptable by those that are doomed to death. He who is full of high resolves, eternal, possessed of unrivaled heroism, who is the bull of the Yadavas and their leader, and who is the slayer and awe-inspirer of all foes, and who is the destroyer of the fame of every enemy. The assembled Kauravas will behold that high-souled and adorable one, that slayer of foes, that chief of the Vrishnis, uttering words full of kindness and fascinating all of my party. I put myself in the hand of that eternal one, that rishi endued with knowledge of self, that ocean of eloquence, that being who is easily attainable by ascetics, that bird called Arishta, furnished with beautiful wings, that destroyer of creatures, that refuge of the universe. That one of 1,000 heads, that creator and destroyer of all things, that ancient one, that one without beginning, middle, or end, that one of infinite achievements, that cause of the prime seed, that unborn one, that eternity's self, that highest of the high, that creator of the three worlds, that author of gods, asuras, nagas, and rakshasas, that foremost of all learned persons and rulers of men, that younger brother of Indra. Thus ends the 71st section in the Sanapsujata Parva of the Udyoga Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.